All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our webinar on credit and debt management. I'm Elizabeth Fries, and I'm an outreach coordinator at the Human Services Center in Turtle Creek. We wanted to provide this webinar just to go over some basics of credit and debt management, recognizing that it's a time of great economic uncertainty for a lot of people in the country. We hope that today's presentation can provide you with some confidence in managing your credit. And we are joined today by Karen Wagner and Alicia Donner from the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center, who will be providing today's presentation. So before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar, so please stay on mute throughout the presentation. Feel free to utilize the chat throughout the webinar. If you have questions, we'll be monitoring that. There will be time for questions and discussion at the end where you're welcome to unmute and talk, but until that time, please stay muted. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Karen and Alicia. Thank you guys both so much for being with us today. We will be sending out both the slides and the recording to everybody at the end. So, Karen?
Okay, thank you for having us. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all well. Credit, we get so many questions at the Financial Empowerment Center about credit. Yesterday, I had a new client who, 19 years old, and she said, can you please explain credit to me? And it's such credit can seem really complicated, but we try to make it a little bit simpler to understand. And if you need one-on-one assistance with understanding credit, establishing credit, that's what the FEC is here for. So let me give you an overview and ask as many questions as you want. Alicia will be in a chat box monitoring that, you know, we'll have plenty of time for questions, and there usually are a lot of questions about credit. So understanding credit, and it is a journey. Like, it is a journey to get the credit score that you deserve and that you want in order to be able to reach the financial goals that you have for yourself and your family. Okay, I don't know what happened here. Oh, okay. So what is credit? You know, a lot of folks don't understand what credit actually is, but credit is a lot of things. We do have a definition on the next slide, but you know, right now you do have credit. If you have an electric bill, the electric company is giving you credit. They're allowing you to use electricity, and then you're going to pay for it later. And that's what credit is: using something now, paying for it later, or buying something now and paying for it later. If you live in an apartment and pay rent, you are getting to have the apartment space now, and you have a commitment to pay for it later, or your mortgage for your house, or anything that you are using right now that you are going to pay for at a later date. And so that is a form of credit. Some credit gets reported to the credit reporting agencies and results in a score that other folks use to give you loans or other goods. But but this kind of credit, where utility companies and things like that, that does not get reported. It did in the past when you didn't pay, but now it isn't so much recorded unless you request it to be so, if that's just a credit. So let's see what the definition is of credit. Okay, so credit is the ability of a customer to obtain goods or services before payment, backed by the trust that the payment will be made in the future. Okay, trust is a really important word. And so, I'm sorry, somebody's not muted.
Yeah.
Trust is a really important word in establishing credit. Since trust is something that you really can't measure, the way we measure it, the way society measures it, our culture, is by credit score. You know, that's it, and credit reports. And also, there's 3 credit reporting agencies, and they put together all this information so that lenders can look at this report and this score for each individual and decide whether they should trust you to pay for the goods and services that you get now, if you're going to be paying for it later, how much trust they can put in you for that. So That's what credit is. So once you have this credit report and score, you should check your credit reports at least once a year, okay, to make sure that there's no errors on them. I've been looking at credit reports for at least 10 years for folks, and it's very rare that I've caught one that doesn't have a mistake on it. Credit reports include your names, addresses, telephone numbers that you've had in the past, and those can be, you know, minor things, but they could be wrong also. And then every bit of credit that you've ever had, some of the jobs you've had are on them also. Now, you should look at your credit report, not just to make sure that it's accurate as far as the things that pertain to you, but also to look at them to make sure that no one else is using your credit. If you have a name that's similar to other folks, it very easily could appear on your credit report. Or if you have someone in your family, like if you're like the third or whatever, like you could also have that person's credit on your credit report. So you really should check your credit reports to make sure there's no errors that are keeping you from getting the best available terms on a loan or getting into an apartment or whatever. And again, you know, other people are looking at this credit. Your lenders are looking at this credit report. It's about you. You should know what's on it because it's all about you. Okay.
Oh, we have a question here, Karen, which you are leading into, which is what is the best way to check your credit? And perfect timing.
Yeah. Okay. Annual credit report. Alicia and I both endorse this. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was established during the Obama administration, and it was established to protect consumers, you know, all of us in the United States. And one of the things that it established was this annualcreditreport.com, and it's authorized by federal law that you can check your credit report once every 12 months. Now, during COVID, you can actually access your credit report weekly until April of 2021, because right now, every single day on the news, especially the last 2 weeks, I've been hearing about scams, financial scams and all, and it's going to keep happening, you know, as people get more and more desperate. So if you see the annualcreditreport.com, write that down or put it into, bookmark it in your phone or computer. When you put that into you know, when you put it into Google or whatever like that, other sites will pop up, you know, but the only real one is annualcreditreport.com, okay? And then you can go on and look at any of your credit reports or all three of your credit reports that you want. There'll be some questions based on your identity that only you will know the answers to because they have to make sure it's you asking. But you should check your credit report, go through it, and make sure that everything on there is something that's for real, okay? That is uniquely dedicated to you and not someone else, okay? And again, those reporting agencies are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They're the three official credit reporting agencies, okay? So, good. Let you, one more time, a little bit longer, just so you can see that, annualcreditreport.com. Okay, so you're seeing these credit reports. So what do they mean? You know, how do they come up with this score? You know, again, remember, credit was built on trust and a commitment for you to pay for something that you're using now, and you promise to pay later for it. So this is how they come up with that, and it is based on this. All right, so your payment history is the biggest part of your credit score. Did you pay on time? Did you pay as agreed? You know, did you pay the amount that you agreed to pay? Did you pay within the entire time frame that you agreed to pay? There's revolving credit, which is our credit cards that we're used to seeing those on credit cards. And it's called revolving credit. And that you might have a credit limit of $1,000. So you may have $300 on your credit card one month, pay it all off, and then next month maybe have $100. So, and the next month maybe have $600. So that balance is always revolving. It's always changing, okay? Or you can have what's known as installment credit, like on a mortgage or on a car, where it's the same amount, like, you know, $350 for this car for the next 60 months. You're paying the same amount each month. So those are two types of credit. In both cases, you agree to pay a certain amount on time. And so that on-time payment is really, really important. Missed payments stay on your credit report for 7 years. So it's really important that you, whenever you buy something on credit, you have to tell yourself, am I going to be able to pay for this when the time comes, when that statement comes in the mail? So,
Karen, regarding this, we have two questions came up. One I'm going to hold for a little bit later, but this next question I think really relates to this, which is, does paying on time really raise your score?
oh yeah, it does. Don't you agree, Alicia, when we see?
Oh, definitely. It's the best way to start building your score up, especially if you're at a lower point. Just getting into a habit of paying that minimum, even the minimum on time, you'll start to see a trend upwards in your score.
Yeah, again, it proves that trust that they have in you, you know, that that commitment that you're going to pay what you agreed to pay. And the further away, now you might have like missed a payment, but maybe it's been a few years. The longer you get away from it time-wise from that payment, the more your score will go up, because, you know, that they see that, you know, oh, you made a little mistake. And the other thing too is, this is what I tell clients: if you know you're going to be late on a payment, call your credit card company. Let them know. They can't read your mind, what's going on in your life. And so call them up and say, hey, you know, I'm going to be a day or two late on this because blah, whatever it is. Most times they will not put that on your credit report. You know, I've never seen, like, when somebody's called and you know, this is the first time they're going to miss a payment and they've explained to them, I've never seen it go on a credit report. They, you know, because they appreciate you letting them know what's going on, instead of just, you know, it seems like you're just ignoring it otherwise, because how would they know, right?
Exactly.
So another part, the next part of your credit score is 30% of it is the debt and available credit that you have, okay? And another way to explain that is credit utilization, all right? The ideal credit utilization is 30%. What does that mean? You know, that means that if you have a credit card limit of $300, let's say you have $300 limit on your first credit card, which is pretty normal, pretty standard. The most you should ever charge in that month's time, because statements are issued every month, is $100. That's the most. And then you should pay it off that month, or you should make sure it doesn't go past $100 if you carry a balance into the next month. 30% is ideal. Once you start going above 30%, your score starts going down, because that's showing that your debt load is getting heavier and heavier, okay? 15%, how long have you had credit? So again, you know, if you're just first starting out and you really haven't established any credit and all, this will, you know, it doesn't work against you, but it's not going to be, you know, a positive and all until you get like maybe 6 months, a year, and then they see that you've had credit, you've been paying on time, your utilization has been great, and then that'll start upping your score, okay? 10%, what types of credit you have. That's what we were talking about before. The revolving kind, which are credit cards, or the installment kind, which are like car loans or mortgages. Frequency of credit applications, the other 10%. That's how many times you have applied for credit. Now, this is a really tough one. It does lower your score. It's called a hard pull. And it's 3 to 5 points each time somebody pulls your credit. And I know that's a tough one, because we have clients who are shopping around, let's say for a used car, and they want to get, their credit isn't great, but they want to get the best percentage rate possible, so that their payments are as low as possible. And they may have gone to 5 places, like to get funding for their car to 5 different lenders. Each one pulls their credit report and their score goes down each time. So by the time they get to the 5th one, it's gone down maybe 25 points by the time they get to that lender. And so this is, I don't know, sometimes we tell clients, talk to a lender and say, my credit score is this, X, what would my APR be? Don't pull it, I just want to know what my, this is my debt to income ratio, and this is my credit score. So what kind of, percentage rate can you give me for a loan and all? And again, but if you come to the FEC, we can sit down with you and figure this out. Pull a credit report, which is always a soft pull with us. We have Experian credit reports, and it does not lower your score at all because it's a soft pull. We're a nonprofit and we have an agreement with Experian. So it won't change, it won't affect your score at all. And then we'll help you guide you through in case you are looking for that car or looking to buy something else that's on credit. Any more questions, Alicia?
We have a couple more coming on here. So the question that I think most relates to what you just said is, why does pulling a credit report, a hard pull, lower your score? Yeah, what's the reasoning behind that on the credit bureau's side?
Oh, okay. The reasoning is because it looks like you are not, you're looking for money that you don't have right now, that you want to buy something else, and they're anticipating the fact that you're going to get a higher debt burden, because if you take on something else, and that makes it a little bit shakier. That are you going to be paying the debt you've already gotten, you've already promised to pay. So it looks like you're trying to take on more and more debt, and that's the reason why. It's just like a cautionary thing.
And this is why we often joke, like the best way to not build credit is to go to the waterfront and open store credit cards all in one day at every store in the waterfront, because that shows that you're being kind of irresponsible with credit and just being credit happy. And that's why when you open something, don't open a bunch of different cards all at once. You want to, look responsible and deal with just one line of credit for a while at first, rather than opening several cards all in one trip. That's not a good way to show that you're credit worthy.
Okay.
Another question I think related to this, and we do have, I think, 3 questions that I see right now, is why do they give a person with a low score a higher interest rate?
Again, because like where they're going to make their money is on the interest on a loan. That's where they're going to make it, and so they're really just hedging their bets. If you have a low credit score, they're anticipating that maybe you won't be able to pay all that, pay all that back, and so they want to make as much money as they can up front. The fact of the matter is, if you finance a car loan for 5 years. First 2 years, you're just paying back interest. Everything you're paying those first 2 years is just interest payments, okay? So that's up front. And so if you're going to refinance, let's say your credit score shoots up after that first year and you want to refinance, you better do it during those first 2 years, because after that, if you're in year 3, you're not going to save any money refinancing because you're just paying principal year 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, companies make sure that they get their money up front on you. So yeah, that's the reason why, because they want to guarantee that it's a business, and they want to make sure they get their money back. So,
and they can rationalize someone with a lower score. That might be because you've made mistakes in the past and you're therefore a riskier investment, and they want to really make sure they get their money on that investment. Which is why they'll often rationalize giving you a higher APR, because loaning you money, if you look riskier, that's riskier for them as a business. So that's why it ties into a higher rate.
Okay.
All right. And a couple other questions that have come up were, does paying an extra amount on your car loan or mortgage increase your score? Like if you pay above the minimum payment. That's how I interpreted this question.
Okay, you can do that, but make sure, when I first had credit, I wanted to make my score go up. So I would pay more, but I would do it before the statement came out. You know, I'd pay it off before the statement came out, and I couldn't understand why my credit score didn't go up. Then I found out if you're going to do that, wait till a statement comes out, then you can pay it all off. You know, just pay it all off, or say this is going, you know, especially in a mortgage, you have to actually tell them that you want that extra to go on principal, or else it won't. You know, they'll just hold it over for the next, they'll just figure you're paying part of the next month's payment. So you want it to, you know, you have to decide whether you want it to go on principal or not. But yeah, and if you pay down the principal, then, you know, you pay less interest over the course of the loan. But yeah, but make sure that you get credit for it by, you know, you can pay it as soon as that statement comes out. You don't have to wait till the due date. But make sure you get that statement first, and then you can pay it. And then your score will go up, and it'll be reported correctly, you know, instead of, yeah.
I think this is a good comment too for some of my clients who just opened their first credit cards. They're paying off their credit cards multiple times throughout the month. Like they make a purchase and pay it off right away. Which unfortunately what happens then is they're not allowing that credit card to even produce a statement. And if there's no statement produced, the credit card company doesn't really have anything to report to the bureau. And so they're not getting credit for using that credit card wisely. Like they're not carrying a balance. They're paying it off right away. But what we've been seeing is it's reporting as $0 to the credit bureau. So it's not even showing that they're using it. So that's what Karen mentions about waiting for that statement is really important. If you pay before the due date, for most cards, you won't accrue any interest if you pay the balance in full. So you can still like let that statement be created and pay it off, but it is important to at least let that statement be created so you get credit for building credit.
Yeah, that's great, putting it that way, Alicia. That's really clear.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple others. Let me see. So the first one we have here is, what are the best ways to clear your credit when there's a debt on there that you can't pay?
Well, let's see. If you can't pay it at all, then it's just going to be time. You know, I mean, if you truly cannot pay this debt and you can't see it in, you know, it'll fall off after 7 years. You know, I used to do a financial workshop with guys that were in prison, and they were really worried about, they hadn't looked at their credit report in years and years. And they were really worried about it. And it's like, well, don't worry about it, because you'll be shocked. You know, everybody's credit score was better than what they thought because things had dropped off. Okay. So, I mean, when you truly can't pay, when you have no money to pay, then it's just a waiting game. You got to be patient and hope that nobody, you know, comes after you, you know, for it in the meantime. And what I mean by that is the local magistrate, you know, collection agencies buy delinquent accounts from lenders. Let's say you had a Macy's account and you ran up money on that. You just, I don't know, at $2,000 and you couldn't pay it off. You lost your job or whatever happened, something happened. And you never could pay that $2,000, and you kept getting letters and statements from Macy's and all this, and you just kind of ignored them. Well, pretty soon they're going to sell that to a collection agency, because Macy's doesn't want to do collections. They're a department store, their business. They don't want to do collections. They're not in that business. So they sell it to a collection agency. Well, the collection agency will send you letters saying, we want this $2,000, you know, or $2,100 because maybe there's interest on it and all. The collection agency didn't buy that from Macy's for $2,000. They might have bought it for $800, you know, they might have bought it for $500, you know, whatever. But you know, they're going to ask you for the full amount. And it's scary, you know, because, you know, they'll say an attorney will, you know, we'll have an attorney and you'll have to go to the magistrates. And if you lose, then you will be responsible for court costs on top of this money. And, you know, it's upsetting to get those kind of letters, to say the least. And so folks will try to scramble and get it. We help folks with these collection agencies. We sit down with you, well, and call them together. In normal times, we would sit right next to you and we would be on the phone together talking to these collection agencies. And now we do like a three-way call. But, you know, because we know that they didn't pay full amounts for it. And we know sometimes that the amounts are so small that they're not going to pay for an attorney to come after you. So the first thing is like to calm our clients down a little bit, you know, because it is very upsetting to get these. And the other part too is, in Pennsylvania, if you haven't made a payment in 4 years, they can't take you to the magistrate's office, but they're counting on people not knowing that. So the collection agencies, again, they're business, they want to make money. They're going to say, and you're saying to yourself, oh yeah, this is my debt. I did do this and I haven't been able to pay it, you know? And so you may not realize that after 4 years of non-payment, they can't take you to the magistrates. When we see that happening, you know, then, you know, what we tell the collection agency, well, you know, they can't really pay this right now, but we will work something out. Now, if you can work something out, you know, again, it's your responsibility to pay back a debt that you owe. It really is. So if you can't pay it back, then you can start paying it back little by little. If it's less than 4 years and you have the money, we can usually make, it's usually, I can get 40%, you know, 40% with a collection agency. They'll agree to that. But again, if you agree to that, then make sure that you pay, make sure you have the money. And if you have to make it in 3 installments, you make sure you pay that on time to that collection agency. Then on your credit report, it says, it'll say that you paid as agreed for less than the full balance and your credit score goes up, okay? So that's something that's really a positive. So, you know, and again, you don't have to be alone. Alicia and I will, and Ikuma and Kristen and Jennifer, we all, those are all our counselors. We'll be glad to do that with you so that you don't have to be talking to these folks alone. Okay. What else?
We have another good question that definitely has come up a lot for us during the COVID pandemic is, what do you do when you lose income and can't contribute to a payment or can no longer make payments?
The first thing you should do is call that lender and tell them, this is what's happening to me. You know, I mean, and, you know, and again, the best thing you can do if they say, well, when do you think you can make a payment? Don't promise anything that you can't keep. Truly, you know, truly don't promise anything you can't keep. There are some resources out there. They're hard to come by, but again, you can call a financial empowerment center. We'll be glad to help you, like figure that out, or call your creditors with you in case you're a little bit nervous about that, because you know, we'll be right there with you.
Yeah. And I will say, what we've had to do a lot during this, you know, 10 months we've now been in this crisis, is a lot of triaging debts, like working with creditors to see if you can go on forbearance for a month or a couple months, or lower your payments to make them more sustainable. But also remembering, like, when you have a loss of income, what are those things that need to be paid so you can maintain, like, living in your home, paying your rent, or maintain your car payment so you can get to work if you have, like, maybe a job with less hours, like kind of triaging those debts. And that's just what happens when we experience an income loss. And if you don't have savings to back that up, like, sometimes you have to make those hard decisions, and some things might just not be able to be paid. You can't get blood from a stone. We can't, you know, make money where there isn't money. So how do we kind of triage, like figuring out what are those important debts, connecting you to resources to help with maybe getting food or getting assistance for rent, things like that, to make it easier to weather this time. And in that case, sometimes things like those revolving debts, unsecured debts, like a credit card, you might have to put those, just not be able to pay those for a time being. And that's okay. You're trying to make it work for how to live. And that's why we always encourage people to contact your creditors as soon as you expect an income change or like an income decrease, because they'll be much more likely to work with you if you're kind of open and upfront from the beginning, rather than waiting till you've been delinquent for several months. And then they won't be as willing to work with you.
I don't know if you got any questions about credit repair. Did any questions about that?
One of the questions, the next one actually, was someone who recently went through a bankruptcy coming up on 2 years ago, and she wanted to know the difference between a conventional 4 years and unconventional loan 2 years.
I'm not really familiar with yeah, I'm not really familiar with what that means. I know what a conventional mortgage is.
Mm-hmm.
Unconventional loan sounds a little bit scary to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, and Chelsea, if you want to directly send me any comments in the chat, or we can even, if you want to send me your email or other contact information, we might be able to do a little research. But offhand, that was kind of new to me as well. But yeah, if you don't mind kind of connecting with me here in the chat, we can maybe do a little research after the fact.
And
yeah,
I just wanted to say, if we can open this up to, we could, like, you can put yourself on video, we could just like discuss this,
Yes.
unmute yourselves and put yourself on video, and we can have like a good discussion too among all the folks who are here right now. Usually that's what I do, but and that way you can share ideas and everybody can hear your ideas. If something might come up, something might occur to you that in the discussion that you might want to share. So unmute yourselves.
After you clear up your credit and you have no credit because you done cleared it up, why is no credit like bad credit?
No credit isn't so much like bad credit. It's just that people won't lend you anything. You know what I mean? You can't get a loan. And also you just have to reestablish, once you've cleared it up, you have to reestablish some credit. And the way to do that, since nobody will give you credit, is one of the ways is they're called secure credit cards. And we use bank on banks. There's several banks in the Pittsburgh area that are bank on banks, which are banks that are like safe banking, that don't charge you outrageous fees and give you a second chance and all. Most of those banks do have secure credit cards. And what that is so you save like $200 or $300.
Yeah.
And you that's your money. That's your money. And the bank will give you a credit card with a limit of $200. It's your savings. Okay, they're not really giving you credit. You're just using your savings. Now you take that $200 limit. Okay, so that would be your limit, and you would pay, let's say, a $60 cell phone bill with it every month. All right, because you pay for things you need. Alicia mentioned wants and needs, and things that you need are communication, housing, clothes, food, things like that. So, and transportation in a lot of folks' cases. So anyway, so you would get a secure credit card. Use that credit card to pay your cell phone bill, that $60 bill. Then the bank sends you a statement, okay, saying you got to send us $60. Well, you have to pay your bill with anyway, because that's something you paid every month. You send it back to the bank, which again, you're just paying back this yourself because it's your savings. But the difference is the bank reports that to the credit bureaus saying that you paid on time. Then you start getting a credit score. That's how you start establishing credit. And usually after a few months, you get a decent credit score. There's also something in the Hill District Federal Credit Union, that's one of these. They're called credit builder loans, okay? So it's a small loan that you would take out, and a place like a credit union is smaller. People know each other. They sit down with you. And I can tell you, the Hill District Federal Credit Union, Richard and Erica have been with them. Richard's been with them forever, and his daughter Erica. And you can sit down, and it uses a lot of character, decide whether to give a loan and all, and give you a small loan, and then you pay it back. And then as you pay that loan back, your credit score and establish credit that way. So there are things to do that, you know, but usually it requires you saving up a little bit of money, you know, a couple $100. And once you do that, the young person I talked about that I talked to yesterday, she just started getting a job. She never had a savings account or anything like that. She wanted to learn how to save and how to build credit. And I said, well, let's work on saving first, and then we'll see how much credit you can afford, because you have to be able to afford that credit, just like anything else. Like, you know, if you're going to get an apartment, you have to say, how can I afford to pay that every month? Can I afford to use this much electricity every month? Can I afford this much food every month? You know, what can I afford? And credit is something you have to budget in to know that what you can afford every month. That's a great question, you know, great question.
Yeah, because I actually did that with when I was getting my house, and they had told me, well, you don't have any credit. So since I worked for PNC at the time, they had one of those cards. So that's exactly what I did to even build up my credit to get my house.
Oh, that's great. That was how long did it take you to see a change?
It didn't take long at all. It only took like maybe 4 or 5 months. Not even long.
It's great, you know.
Karen, we're still having a couple questions pop up in the chat.
Okay.
One I want to highlight first, because you were mentioning secured credit cards, is kind of how you get approved for a secured credit card or a credit builder loan. And yeah, just like how that works. Just going into that a little bit more.
Okay. Did you want to discuss that, Alicia, or did you?
Sure. Well, yeah, like with a secured credit card, something that to be considered is some of the bank-on-banks, like I believe a Dollar Bank, will help you get that credit build, like that secured credit card, without actually pulling your credit. So once you have enough money to pay for that savings account, which secures the card, which acts as collateral, you can actually open the card then, and then they'll start reporting that to the credit bureaus. So you'll start building credit even without them doing a hard pull on your credit. So that's something to consider. Like, so especially if you kind of do it via one of the bank-on-banks, which a FEC counselor can like talk to the ones that we know don't do hard pulls for their secured credit cards, you'd be able to open a secured credit card that way. You mentioned like seeing some advertised online or through Credit Karma. For those, they probably do pull your credit and do a hard pull. But if you know your credit's really poor and are concerned about that, you can come talk to the FEC and we can suggest some of those local banks to work on building your credit. Like the Hill District, I know was mentioned, and I know Dollar Bank is another good one, so.
And anything about credit repair? Any questions about that? Because I see that advertised on TV a lot, like, you know, are you $10,000 in debt, blah, 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 you know, or more?
Yeah, we haven't had anything come up in the chat, but that is, I think, like if anyone has had any experience with maybe a credit repair company or have heard those advertisements and just want a little bit more information about that, this would be a good time to ask about that. Someone has mentioned they're scared of them, which I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah, me too. Yes. Yeah. The way the credit repair, like, and again, there's credit repair and there's credit management, and Advantage, our parent company, has a debt management plan. And that's when you feel like really overwhelmed by your credit cards and all. And sometimes we refer people to that. What they do is they have agreements with some credit card agencies, some lenders that, you know, you've been paying your credit on time, but maybe you're maxing out everything, you know, and you're getting scared because you're sending all this money to your credit cards. And you have high interest rates. If you have high interest rate credit cards, they negotiate with the companies to get it down. It's, you know, that's a free phone call, and you go through your credit card. They tell you how much they can save you every month, and if that's more manageable, then they don't have relationships with every creditor. So some folks you're going to still have to pay yourself, but you know, look at your budget, tally it all up, see what it is, And then what you do is you send them one check and then they pay everybody, you know. And sometimes you can save like $300 a month, you know, or more. You just have to wait and see. It's based on the relationships, but that's called debt management plan, a debt management plan. Now, debt repair plan or a credit repair plan is totally different. What happens with a credit repair is they have if they haven't already, they have your credit cards go into default, okay? They tell you not to pay so that you become delinquent on your credit cards. Or if you have them at collection agencies or already, or put you in a position where it'll go to collection agencies. Your credit gets ruined, of course, you know, by doing that. But what they do then is they have you pay them X amount of dollars every month. Like let's say they have them send you like $400 every month. Okay, this credit repair agency. So as soon as you get enough money to negotiate, let's say you have a $2,000 balance with your first creditor, and you're delinquent. As soon as you have enough money to negotiate with a credit repair agency, they go on the phone and they negotiate with the collection agency for a smaller amount. You know, once they've gotten rid of that creditor, then they tackle the next one. This can take several years to pay, and again, you're paying this credit repair agency, and it takes a while to get your credit. You know, while you're doing that, your credit score is pretty low, and you know, and because this is something you could actually do yourself and something you don't want to have happen if you can avoid it. It's better to avoid that situation by either calling yourself, or, you know, actually, you know, coming to see folks like us, because we can help you steer you away from that kind of situation. I've had like at least 2 clients come to me after they've already committed to this, and it was really hard to dig them out of that situation, you know, because they'd been sending these folks money, and you know, one we managed to stop because it was pretty new, but the other one, there's a contract, and it's tough. So be careful about credit repair and you know, things you see on TV. I know when folks feel desperate, they want to believe these things, but you know, just be careful.
Yeah, we are getting a lot of good questions, and I will say I'm not sure we'll be able to answer all of them. Sorry, but one thing, just Karen, since you were talking about credit repair agencies versus debt management plans, somebody did mention being fearful of all these things and asking, like, who do you trust? And I think a key thing to remember when you're dealing with kind of looking at these companies, especially the ones that advertise pretty heavily, when you are looking at a way to like safely and in a way that benefits you the most, rebuild your credit, or if you are dealing with debts that are unsustainable for you, look for an accredited nonprofit credit counseling agency. The one local to Western Pennsylvania, and also they're statewide as well as work nationwide, is actually the agency we work with. And this isn't a shameless self-plug, it's just they're the main one in the area, which is Advantage. You want to like look at those accredited ones that are nonprofits. They're not out to make a ton of money kind of out of you. It's really to help you regain control of your financial life. And that's really important, because it shouldn't be, it is scary. Money is scary, but looking at it that way and being a responsible consumer on your end and looking for those nonprofits will help you go through this process with less fear. At least I'm hopeful of that. And you can always talk with us. We're a free service that we're doing this all remotely. We can help you talk about these questions and kind of, you know, figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much you knew about the Financial Empowerment Center, if you had any literature on us, but we're free one-on-one. We're a nonprofit, free one-on-one. We stay with you as long as you want to stay with us, you know, and to reach your financial goals. There's no time limit. There's no income limit. You know, you know, we have clients that have zero money up to clients that earn 6 figures a year. So
Yep.
we will stick with you and you know, help you reach your financial goals. And again, it's free one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Another good question, just because I know this one has a really easy answer, is how can you stop a creditor from calling you daily or multiple times a day, which your right as a consumer is to file a cease and desist. That doesn't make the debt go away, but that does stop any sort of harassing phone calls. You are allowed to do that. And that's something we at the FEC can help you get connected with. Also, Karen mentioned at the beginning, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's a great resource, and it's for us to protect us as consumers. And that's another, if you go there and like search collection agency cease and desist, they'll come up with a template letter you can send out to that whoever is harassing you.
Yeah, always, you know, if you can, like, send emails or a real letter, you know, put it in writing and like make, you know, and don't agree to anything. Like, don't agree to pay any collection agency or collector anything without getting it in writing first, you know, get it in writing. You know, because if they just tell you on the phone, okay, well, you know, if you send us this much money, you know, and again, because you might be worried and about some of the things that they're telling you, you know, under stress, you might not realize that, you know, in normal situations, you would say, yeah, I'm not just, you know, agreeing to something, you know, on the phone, but you might do that. So make sure you get something in writing. And again, you know, collections, that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and thank you, Elizabeth, for posting the CFPB website. All right, what are some of the other questions? There was a question about like good banks for people just starting out, for youth or people interested in banks that have, you know, minimal fees or low fees, which, like I think Karen mentioned, we work with the Bank on Banks, which there are 6 banks locally in Pittsburgh, which meet national standards for being safe and affordable for consumers. So that means like you can't overdraft these accounts. If anyone's had issues with overdrafting, I know I have, especially in my early 20s when I was just not keeping track of money like I should have been. So you can't overdraft these accounts. They have a minimum amount, a lower amount to open, don't have like a minimum balance for most of them required. Most, but not all, do have a $5 or less monthly maintenance fee, but that can be waived for youth. So people under 24, for some of these accounts, it can be waived. And also one of those accounts, KeyBank, doesn't have that monthly maintenance fee. So that's something we can also help you, like, we can suggest those 6 banks. I know it's like Dollar Bank, KeyBank, Bank of America, First Commonwealth, S&T. What's the last one? What am I missing? I know it's not PNC.
Hill District Federal Credit Union got on that list.
Oh, nice. Oh, so we got another one then. Yeah, so Hill District's on there too. But those are ones
I'm just trying to think too.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm missing one. Oh, Chase.
Yeah.
Chase, the other one.
Is Chase one?
Yes, Chase is.
Oh.
And I know Chase is opening some new branches. I know there's one right near me in Wilkinsburg on Penn Avenue. Not sure when it's going to be open, but opening soon. So yeah, those are really good options for people who are just starting out with banking or want to rebuild a banking relationship, like have had issues in the past. So we can definitely help you like work through opening those accounts. In the past, when we were meeting in person, we would often go with clients to open those accounts. But now we can kind of like help you through that process. A lot of them have online opening, just with pandemic and that occurring, but those are good options. There's been a couple questions, which I posted in there, like our contact information. So the FEC info email address, our 1-800 number for scheduling, as well as the referral form for scheduling online. Those are all options.
And
Yeah.
disputing things on your credit report.
Yes, that's coming up too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
easy to do.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's easier than you, and and it works. I don't know. People tell me this, clients tell me this, works a little better when you're on the phone and, okay, this is what happens when we call like for a dispute or a collection agency. It's like we have like two people. We have the client and then the counselor on the phone, and then the collection agency or the creditor. And then we say, first person that talks is me. Hi, this is Karen Wagner from the City of Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center. I'm calling with Ms. Smith and to talk about her account. Okay, then it just goes a lot easier once they know that you're not alone, you're with someone, and you want to dispute something, then you get it in writing. Again, whatever you discuss, you get in writing to follow up. And, and by federal law, any dispute has to be addressed within 30 days. They have to get back to you. That's a federal law. They have to get back to you in writing in 30 days to say, this was the original creditor, this was the original creditor that you had, this was your original amount and the dates and all. They have to send that to you.
if they don't send it in 30 days, can I have it removed?
Then you would go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because they'll fight and they get back to you within 15 days. I mean, when they say they're going to get back to you within 15 days, they do. And that's a federal agency because, it's real, on your own, it's really hard to get it removed if it's a dispute and all without like getting them involved, But they do have to, but you tell them, you say, look, they didn't get back to me in 30 days. They didn't, so what's my recourse here? What can we do? Then
I
you
have been in a similar situation, and I have actually contacted the Better Business Bureau, and either one have not actually followed up, and it's been 60 days with me.
What, Better Business Bureau or Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
Actually, so my situation is I had asked for the dispute. They never once followed up with me. I had then went to the Better Business Bureau. They have not followed up with me.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on them. Yeah.
Okay.
But the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they're the ones, I mean, seriously, I've never had them not follow up, honestly. Was that one of the agencies you contacted?
No, this is like the first one I'm coming across with good results. So kudos to you.
No, they're great. And there's an 800 number to call them, but, and it might say, well, you're number 9 in the queue. Okay. But the thing is, like, it's not that long before they get to you. And they're super nice people. They'll spend as much time on the phone with you as you need to explain your situation. And then, I mean, they work for you. I mean, they work for you. This is like a federal agency that works for you.
I know we are running low on time, but there are a couple other things that came up. One was a shout out to Dave Ramsey, that oracle of personal finance. And if we do follow some of his principles, and I think there are things in there that are good, like I know there's been studies about kind of the psychology of paying down those smaller credit cards first, and kind of getting that momentum is really good. But some of the other things just might not be realistic for everyone, like paying for college completely out of pocket in cash might not work for everyone. And I think that is something where, like, using credit smartly, or like maybe it's not, you are just not making enough money to buy a car all in cash, like, but you can use credit smartly to get a really good rate. So there are things there. So I think Dave Ramsey does have some good things. I also really like his kind of saving up that $1,000 emergency fund. That's a really good goal to have because emergencies come up, like car repairs, stuff like that. It is good to have that kind of base emergency thing. And I think he does have some good gems, but just some things might not be realistic for everyone. And that's where, like, building your credit and using your credit smartly can help you get a good deal, even if you do have to take out a loan for school or have to take out a loan for a car. So there are definitely, I think we use some of his advice, but also kind of temper it with just you know, other real life experiences. And then another question was, do you recommend getting a loan to pay off credit cards at all? And I see Karen shaking her head. These are debt, you know, it is dangerous to like get more debt to pay off other debt. So there, you know, like, and that's something there might be, it might be tempting in some ways, but if you're going to do something like that, you want to really make sure you're not just getting yourself into more debt. Like a lot, like freeing up those credit cards to then spend more on them. I think it's really important to kind of get into the habit, and this is something I am very open with my clients. I have struggled with, got into some credit card debt in my 20s, and I'm still dealing with it. But getting into a habit of living within your means, and really, if you're going to use credit cards, using them responsibly, using them to build credit, but paying them off in full every month, or paying them off so, like Karen mentioned, you keep that utilization rate under that 30%, and also kind of limiting how much interest you're accruing. So yeah, it is often not advised to pay off debt with other debt. Sometimes there might be like good options out there, but you also want to be really careful, and really kind of the best way to do it would be to try to get out of that habit of buying things on credit if you can, and then just work on paying down your existing debt.
Yeah, and if you just want to make one payment, you know, the debt management plan, see if they can lower that payment for you. Because the thing is with the debt management plan, you can't use your credit cards anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sign on to that, you're done with credit cards. And it's great because again, you like Alicia was saying, you get in a habit. If you're on a debt management plan for like 3 years, you're in a habit for not using credit for 3 years. When you're done paying that all off, you got that big burden off of you, and
Yeah.
you're used to paying for things not using credit. So, you know, it works out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth is here again.
Well, thank you guys so
Yeah,
much. This was really informative. And thank you everybody for participating. I just want to remind you that I will be sending out the slides as well as a recording. So if there are questions you want to go back and look at, you are more than welcome to do that. And then we are going to be sending out a survey just with some feedback. So if you fill that out, you have a chance to win a gift card. So we'd really appreciate it if you do fill that out. But I'll be sending all of that in the follow-up email. So thank you so much, Karen and Alicia.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if we didn't get to your question, I know there's a couple on there we didn't get to. I dropped in the chat, not Karen and my direct email addresses, but the FEC info, and also a referral form if you are interested in meeting with the FEC. The referral form is kind of how you refer yourself to the FEC. So if anyone's interested in meeting with us, yeah, definitely fill out that form or shoot the FEC info email an email.
And I'll send that out with follow-up resources too. So you guys will have that. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank
Have
you.
a good one, everyone.
Bye.